Hi, I'm AJ.Miller with Fairway Home Mortgage, and I wanted to start a podcast for many reasons. I've wanted to do this now for a couple years since I started doing it on concrete cancer, and there's so many different things that I want to talk about. And while I'm not an expert in most things, I do love to do research on a lot of things, and knowing a lot of people in the area, the politics that are involved in many things, sports, religion. Just anything that I can possibly get my hands on, I'm hoping to bring to the table here so that it's not boring. I do not want anything that I do to be boring and something that you don't want to watch. What I want is I want to get value content that brings something to the table that at the end of the day you can look at it and say, in that 15-minute period or that 20-minute period, I got a whole hell of a lot of something out of it. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly. There's just so much to talk about, and I definitely don't like to just put my piece on it. I like to bring in people that, understand and know more than I do. So that is my goal of this podcast, and trying to bring something to the individuals out there that, they want to listen to and that they care about, and try to bring something to the community to make it better. So on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about COVID and where the real estate market is, and are we in a buyer's market or not? Is this a good time to buy, or is this not a good time to buy? We're going to go over some data on those and hopefully give you guys some information you don't know. So going into it right now, and I'm going to specifically talk about Austin, Texas. So that's where I live, that's where I work. Being a mortgage advisor for the last 20 years, I thought I saw everything until everything after COVID and how much things have changed. Some interesting statistics just to kind of get right into it are, when people call, they're worried, right? Because prices in Austin have gone up a lot. We've seen prices in some parts of the town go up 40-50%. But since 22, we saw a shift when the feds finally started raising interest rates, and they should have did it in 2021, but they didn't. They were behind, just like they're behind right now, and we'll talk about that later. So in Austin, Texas right now, we have seen a complete 180 from what we saw back in 21. In 21, I had clients coming in that were offering $100,000, $150,000 over asking price. We had no listings. We had a whole bunch of buyers, and we had no inventory. So obviously supply and demand is kind of, what brings that around. And now from 22, once you had, something that was just a perfect storm, having interest rates climb by double, maybe more than double of where they were in 2021 to the current environment that we're in. And now interest rates have obviously started coming down. But in that time period, you saw the increase of homes so much, and at the same exact time you have an increase of interest rates. So your payments are higher, the housing is higher, affordability finally set in a little bit and became a problem. So what does that mean right now into the overall scale of kind of like, are we in a buyer's market? Well, first, a buyer's market is basically just, supply versus what the demand is. And when you look at it, I was using my phone and I was looking up some information, and obviously with ChatGPT and things like that, you can get a little bogged down. But I asked ChatGPT, in the last 50 years in Austin, Texas, how many buyers markets have we had? And it was pretty shocking because we've only had two. Okay, two. Post 2008, from 2009 to 2012, so a very short window of a buyer's market. I bought my house in 2012 too, so scored there. Now, the last buyer's market that we had is from 22 to 25. So right now, so we're in it right now. So when you're looking at why the reason is, and the reason for a buyer's market is when you have well over 6 months of supply. So Austin's a little bit different than the East Coast. Like, I'm from Rochester, New York, and I can tell you that in Rochester, New York, I was talking to my aunt, who's a very prominent and well-known real estate agent. She said that the days on market is sometimes less than 2 days, meaning a house hits the market and it's gone. That's what we experienced here. And the reason for that, obviously, is their price point. $200,000 is a hell of a lot different than where I live, and it's $800,000. Your payments are astronomically different. So going into more of why it is a good time, I just wanted to bring up more statistics to show you why it is and how it's going to change. Okay, it always does. Everything's cyclical. So listings right now are up 70% since 2019. That's number 2 in the country behind Denver. We're up 26% year over year, and we have 30% of those with price cuts, which is the 4th highest in the nation. So, most people that are selling their houses sell it for many reasons right now. It's obviously not a seller's market, right? So people are selling because they either truly believe they had a lot of equity built in, and it's a great time to go buy the dream house that they want. But there's also, things like divorce, you have to move for jobs, things like that. So the environment has changed a lot. So now that house prices have finally started to come down by roughly around 20% or so, and they're starting to stabilize, there's going to be some really interesting things that are going to happen in the next 6 months. So going back to what we were talking about, and this is a conspiracy theory, this is some factual data, okay? So the current Fed president, he's got obviously some decisions to make, and obviously this administration believes that he should start lowering interest rates, and everybody that I watch believes in it too, not just for mortgages, but because they're usually behind. Like they were with raising rates, they're going to be behind with lowering rates. Tariffs are typically, on average, a one-time hit to the economy. So it's more about the job losses and what the jobs are doing right now. And we've obviously seen craziness with that. So let's just say that this Fed president has until next May and he's gone, right? So the current administration has to fill that seat. Well, the crazy part is, and this really has never happened like this, but you also had one of the other Fed members just leave their job, right? So now you have 2 open spots. Now you have a third that is possibly have committed mortgage fraud, and they're going after her for that. She tried to buy supposedly 2 houses within a 2-week period and claiming both of them as her homesteads, which is illegal. It's a felony. So if this all happens that way, you have 3 open spots. So the administration gets to fill those 3 open spots. And I'm guessing that this administration is going to fill those 3 spots with, people that are bond people that know what they're doing. I mean, the current Fed president, without even being political, isn't even an economist, believe it or not. So with that being said, bringing it back into real estate, they're going to bring mortgage rates down. They want that 10-year to fall. If the 10-year note takes, let's just say right now we're at 429, 4.29. If it falls to 3.7, you're talking about mortgage rates now in the low 5s. So why is now a good time to buy? Well, currently you can negotiate. So when you have a buyer's market, you got a couple different things that you can look at. One of them is going to be, not only do you have tons of inventory to choose from, and sometimes that's a bad thing because you fall in love with a whole bunch of different things, but you got to marry one, right? So you got a lot of things to look at. But you do have less costs, right? So you can negotiate the seller to pay your closing costs, to do many different products that are out there that are created now, like buy downs and buying your rate down, and calling someone like myself that can walk you through all those options to spend the seller's money to benefit you the best. You have lower prices. You can negotiate on price. You have better products that are created right now for self-employment, and I'm going to do a whole nother podcast on those products because that's changed since COVID as well. Less money down, and people say, well, you can always put less money down to buy a house. You can always do 5%. No, not so much. And the reason why is because let's just say you are buyer A, Ben, and buyer B, Dan. Both the market turns and 2 offers come in on the same property, and you put down 5%, and this guy over here, Dan, he puts down 20%. Both the same prices. Who do you think the seller's going to pick? This is what happened in 2021. The seller's going to pick the 20% down guy. So a lot of the first-time buyers are going to get outbid, not only on price, even if they're at the same price, it just looks better. So you start losing your negotiating power when it comes to down payment, and that's why it's really important right now that you want to take advantage. Don't try to catch the market, when interest rates come down, because it's like trying to catch Bitcoin at the bottom, right? Like you missed the boat, man. You missed it. You can jump back in it, and you should do your work to figure out if it's a good time to jump back in. But I can tell you that doing this for 20 years, right now, with two buyers markets, and we're in one right now, this is why it's a good time to buy. Obviously, you have more options. You have less buyers. Like, I can't tell you, I do a real estate tour around Austin, Texas, and 4 different parts of Austin, all over. And all of them, it's just like, does anybody have any buyers? Does anybody have any buyers? There's a ton of buyers out there. But the problem is the buyers are waiting for interest rates to come down. And there are too many products that we have right now. 3-2-1 buy downs, 2-1 buy downs, where we can lower your payment 2%, 3% for the next 3 or 2 or 1 years, so you can hedge lower rates while we're waiting for those rates to come down. Now, we didn't think it was going to take this long, 3 years. So some of the people that we did put into buy downs, they have a 6% interest rate right now. But we'll still be able to refinance them, right? But they still got in when they needed it to get in, and as long as they stay in the house for a period of time, they're gonna make their money, and they're gonna find a lower payment. But it's a good time to buy because of all of these different things. When interest rates go lower, and they will, all of these come off the table almost. Yeah, you're gonna have a lower rate, but guess what happens? You're gonna have multiple buyers, and guess what happens now? You're gonna start seeing appreciation. You're gonna see appreciation in property price. You're gonna see listing prices start to stabilize on the higher end. The traditional home makes around 2.5% a year, and that's nationwide, right? We saw an anomaly, it happens, but typically home prices go up every single year. That's why most people that are very wealthy own real estate. It's a fact. So, you have all of these different things right now that are coming around. You have the products. You have the lower prices. You have all of these different factors that all go away the minute rates hit 5.5. 5.5 is a mental trigger. Currently, we're at a 10-month low, and we'll see what happens in the next couple months with the Fed, but rates have not been this low, under 6.5%. Since October of last year. And right now we're currently, August 22nd shooting this right now. So we'll see how this lives out. But I'm telling you, rates are going to go down. This is going to end well. So a couple of things to end real quick. Things you can use, and I talked about them a little bit, is first step is obviously, get in touch with someone like myself, getting pre-approved so you work backwards and you understand exactly where your payment is on a worst case basis, right? Are you comfortable with it? And then setting up a plan on how we can make that look even better by using the seller concessions or the seller's money when we're negotiating, right? So sometimes it's not just about lowering the price. It's about taking that money and getting your payment lower for the next couple of years, reducing your closing costs, paying all your closing costs, things like that. We've now seen builders that are out there, and builders are trying to unload these houses. And, the resales are going to start becoming more valuable because the builders are not building because of these higher interest rates. So for the next 5 to 10 years, we will see a house boom. And, obviously if you can sell your house later, it's probably a better bet. But the problem is obviously it's twofold, right? You get to sell your house for maybe a little bit more, but then that house you want to buy, you lose your negotiating power on. So it's a good time to sell your house if you listen to your real estate agent and you sell it at the right price, right? Most people don't want to listen to that, but if you sell it at the right price, you do what your real estate agent asks, you make it what's called a make ready, right? You make it look beautiful, you do your inspections, you get everything taken care of, because I promise you that house that's your dream home, that in 2021 cost $1 million, $900,000, is now $700,000. That same house in the next couple of years is going to go back to $900,000. So you might sell your house and make some money. You're going to turn right around and you're going to be right where you are. So it's really not that much of a gain right now. If you can buy, you get a deal. You save tens of thousands of dollars in interest and tens of thousands of dollars of closing costs in your negotiations. As long as you're going to be in that house for 5 to 10 years, you're going to make out like a bandit, and you're going to be very happy that you did. So, feel free to leave comments. If you have any questions or anything else you want me to talk about, put it in the bottom in the comment section, and I look forward to talking to you, and you can give me a call at any time. My information's below. Have a great day, and talk to you soon. Have a good one.